Welcome back to Sovereign Judgment, where ordinary homeowners discover that the most dangerous sentence in suburban America is, "The board has reviewed your property." Today's story begins with a 12-foot flagpole, a woman with a clipboard, and a neighborhood regulation written by people who apparently believed the United States flag was lowering property values. By the time it ended, there was a 60-foot tower, a professional weather station, 3 government agencies, 1 emergency siren, and an HOA president clinging to a folding table while being sprayed by an irrigation system she had personally ordered activated. Tell me where you're listening from in the comments, because I need to know whether homeowners associations are this strange everywhere, or whether Briar Glen Estates was simply built over an ancient burial ground for common sense. Let's raise the flag. The first violation notice arrived on a Tuesday morning at exactly 8:17. Tucked beneath the windshield wiper of my truck, like a parking ticket issued by someone who had recently discovered Microsoft Word art. It was printed on heavy cream-colored paper with a gold border, an embossed oak tree in the top left corner, and the words, "Official Compliance Directive," written in a font normally reserved for announcing either a royal wedding or the closure of a regional mattress store. My name is Daniel Mercer, and at the time, I was standing in my driveway wearing pizza-patterned socks, holding a mug of coffee that had already gone cold, despite having been poured less than 6 minutes earlier. Cold coffee is a recurring feature of my life. Some people collect stamps, some people restore classic cars. I create hot beverages and then abandon them in strategic locations around my house until they reach the temperature of pond water. The notice read, "Resident is hereby directed to remove the unauthorized vertical structure located in the front yard visibility zone within 72 hours. Below that, in smaller print, structure identified as flagpole. I looked past the notice at the structure in question. It was a 12-foot aluminum flagpole installed beside my front porch, 23 feet from the sidewalk and 19 feet from the nearest property boundary. It flew a standard 3x5-foot American flag that had belonged to my father. The pole was slim, silver, professionally anchored, and about as threatening as a curtain rod standing at attention. I read the notice again. Then I looked at the flagpole. Then I looked back at the notice. "Unauthorized vertical structure," I said aloud. My neighbor, Harold Finch, was kneeling beside his flower bed across the street. Harold was 72, wore suspenders regardless of whether his trousers needed assistance, and had the hearing of a surveillance satellite whenever neighborhood drama was involved. "What'd they call it?" he shouted. "A vertical structure." Harold stood slowly, using his garden shovel like a cane. "That means flagpole?" "Apparently." He considered this. "Well, my mailbox is vertical. Don't give them ideas." Harold nodded with the solemnity of a man being briefed before battle. I carried the notice inside, set it beside 2 other cups of cold coffee, and opened the Briar Glen Estates covenants on my laptop. I had moved into Briar Glen 3 years earlier after my father passed away. The house was a modest 2-story place at 1847 Lantern Ridge Drive in the fictional town of Bellwether, located in equally fictional Calder County. Dad had helped me buy it, not financially. He had been a public school mechanic with the investment strategy of storing cash in envelopes, labeled things like "roof maybe" and "truck definitely." He helped by inspecting every property with me. He crawled beneath foundations, opened electrical panels, tested water pressure, measured attic insulation, and rejected one otherwise lovely house because, in his words, that downstairs toilet flushes like it's asking permission. Briar Glen was the last neighborhood we toured together. The house had a cracked patio tile, a garage door that groaned like an elderly walrus being asked to stand, and a maple tree in the backyard that leaned slightly east. Dad loved it. He stood in the front yard, hands on his hips, and said, "This place has good bones." Then he pointed to the patch beside the porch. "You could put the flag there." Dad had served 22 years in the Air Force. He was not loud about it. He didn't wear tactical clothing to buy cereal or tell waiters his rank before ordering pancakes. He simply kept his uniforms pressed, attended every Memorial Day service, and replaced his flag before the first edge began to fray. After he died, I inherited the flag from his porch. Installing that pole had been the first thing I did after moving in. I had checked the county ordinance. called the utility locator, poured a proper concrete foundation, and even verified the setback requirements. That habit came from 21 years working as a structural and telecommunications engineer, although at Briar Glen, I mostly described myself as the guy who works from home and owns too many measuring tapes. My specialty was communications towers, antenna supports, wind loading calculations, and remote environmental monitoring equipment. At the time, I did not believe that background would become relevant. Then again, at the time I also believed no adult would use the phrase front yard visibility zone with a straight face. The HOA covenants contained restrictions on sheds, fences, satellite dishes, basketball hoops, decorative statues, temporary signs, permanent signs, semi-permanent signs, seasonal signs, vehicles, trailers, boats, bird feeders, bird baths, birdhouses, and something called excessive porch personality. There was no restriction on flagpoles. Not one. There was, however, a section titled Architectural Improvements, which required approval for permanent accessory structures exceeding 15 feet in height. My flagpole was 12 feet. I measured it again, because I trusted the HOA about as much as I trusted gas station sushi. 12 feet, 1 inch from the concrete surface to the cap. At 10:03 that morning, I emailed the management office. Hello, I received Compliance Directive BG4471 regarding my flagpole. Please identify the specific covenant provision prohibiting a 12-foot flagpole. Thank you. The response came 9 minutes later. Your inquiry has been forwarded to the board. At 10:21, a second message arrived. The board's interpretation is final. They had not provided a rule. They had provided a mood. At 11:46, I heard the soft electric whine of a golf cart approaching my house. The vehicle rounded the corner at approximately 8 miles per hour, which was still fast enough to make its plastic side curtains flap like frightened lasagna sheets. Behind the wheel sat HOA President Patricia Wexler. Patricia was 58, though she carried herself like she had been appointed to the position in 1742 and expected her portrait to be hung in the clubhouse after death. She wore white capri pants ironed so sharply they looked capable of slicing deli meat, a coral polo embroidered with the Briar Glen oak tree, and a wide-brimmed sun hat covered in fabric daisies. The hat made her look like a garden center had won a local election. A flashing amber beacon had been mounted on top of her golf cart. No one knew why. Briar Glen had no traffic control authority, no maintenance fleet, and no roads longer than half a mile. But Patricia drove beneath that flashing light, with the expression of an airport official guiding a damaged aircraft toward emergency foam. Beside her sat a red 3-ring binder. On her lap rested a clipboard. The clipboard was Patricia's natural habitat. I had never seen her without one. I once watched her carry it into the neighborhood Christmas party while holding a plate of meatballs in the other hand. She parked directly across my driveway, blocking my truck. "Mr. Mercer," she called. Her voice had the tonal quality of a teaspoon trapped inside a garbage disposal. "Mrs. Wexler." She stepped out of the cart and straightened with the posture of a 4-star general inspecting troops who had installed the wrong mulch. "I understand you received the board's directive." "I did, and yet the structure remains. It's been 3 hours." She glanced at her clipboard. "Compliance begins at the moment of notification." "That's impressive. Most laws wait until after someone receives them." Her lips tightened like a drawstring bag full of lemons. "This is not a joking matter." "I agree. That's what makes it confusing." She walked to the edge of my lawn and pointed her pen at the flagpole. Section 8, paragraph 14. Subsection C gives the board authority over visually disruptive installations. I had the covenants open on my phone. Section 8, paragraph 14, concerns above-ground swimming pools. Patricia blinked once. It was the blink of a printer discovering it was out of cyan. The board's authority is not limited to the examples listed. Flagpoles aren't listed. They don't need to be. Then why cite the swimming pool section? Her shoulders lifted slightly. Because the board has determined the flagpole creates visual disharmony. I looked up at the flag. It moved gently in the breeze, apparently destroying harmony at 9 miles per hour. What part is disharmonious? The height. It's 12 feet. The metallic finish. It's aluminum. The movement. That's the flag. I know what it is, Mr. Mercer. Then we're making progress. She exhaled through her nose like a bull, attempting to remain professional during a zoning hearing. There have been complaints. From whom? Residents. How many? Several. How many is several? The identity and number of complainants are confidential. Did you complain? Patricia's expression became very still. That answered the question with the efficiency of a sworn affidavit. She raised the clipboard. You have 72 hours. After that, the association will impose a fine of $100 per day. Show me the rule, and I'll consider it. The board does not negotiate. I didn't ask to negotiate. I asked you to point at the sentence. Her voice rose half an octave, like a smoke alarm detecting toast. The board is the final authority on community aesthetics. No, the covenants are. I am warning you, Mr. Mercer. I believe that's what the expensive paper was for. For the first time, her rehearsed confidence cracked. It was brief, but I saw it. Patricia was accustomed to people apologizing. She was accustomed to residents nodding, removing things, repainting things, moving things, trimming things, and thanking her for the privilege of being corrected. My refusal was not aggressive. That made it worse. She returned to her golf cart and gripped the steering wheel. You will regret making this difficult. I'm not making it difficult. I lifted the violation notice. I'm asking you to finish the sentence. She drove away with the amber light flashing, the golf cart humming like an indignant mobility scooter, fleeing a farmer's market. I watched her disappear around the corner. Then I looked at the flagpole. For the first time since installing it, I felt nervous. Not because I thought Patricia was right, because I knew people like Patricia rarely stopped when they were wrong. They simply increased the volume until the mistake felt official. The first fine arrived the following Monday, $300. Patricia had counted Saturday and Sunday, apparently believing visual harmony required weekend staffing. I appealed in writing. The board scheduled a hearing for Thursday at 6:30 p.m. in the Briar Glen Clubhouse. I arrived at 6:22 carrying the covenants, the county zoning code, photographs of the pole, the purchase receipt, the installation diagram, and a fresh coffee that became cold during the 7-minute walk from my house. The board sat behind a folding table draped with a green cloth. Patricia occupied the center chair. To her left sat Treasurer Roger Bell, a thin man with rimless glasses who looked like an accountant assembled from spare coat hangers. To her right sat Secretary Linda Pruitt, who wore enough turquoise jewelry to interfere with marine navigation. 7 residents sat in the audience. Patricia tapped a wooden gavel. The gavel was new. I knew because the price sticker was still on the handle. This hearing concerns violation BG 4471, she announced. Her voice filled the room like a dentist's drill echoing through a soup can. Mr. Mercer has installed an unapproved vertical structure that violates community aesthetic standards and creates a potential safety hazard. What safety hazard? I asked. You will have an opportunity to speak. I thought that was why I was here. She tapped the gavel again. Please respect procedure. The gavel made a tiny sound, like a walnut falling onto carpet. Patricia read from a prepared statement for 11 minutes. She used the terms architectural integrity, neighborhood cohesion, and unilateral visual intrusion. At one point, she described the flagpole as industrial. It was thinner than her golf cart cup holder. When she finished, she folded her hands. You may now present your defense. I stood. Section 8, paragraph 14, regulates above-ground pools. Section 11 regulates accessory structures over 15 feet. My flagpole is 12 feet, 1 inch. The county specifically permits residential flagpoles up to 35 feet without special review. Federal law protects the reasonable display of the American flag. The pole was installed after utility marking and meets all setback and foundation requirements. I placed copies of each document on the table. Roger Bell studied them. Linda Pruitt adjusted her glasses. Patricia did not look down. The board has discretion, she said. Where? In the covenants. Which page? The document must be interpreted as a whole. That's usually what people say when they can't find the page. A laugh escaped from the back row. Patricia's head turned toward the sound with the speed of a lawn sprinkler discovering a cat. Harold Finch stared at the ceiling. Patricia faced me again. The board votes to uphold the violation. Roger raised one hesitant hand. Linda looked at Patricia, then raised hers. The motion passed 3-0. On what grounds? I asked. Patricia smiled. It was a small, satisfied smile, like a cat finding an unattended casserole. Community standards. The fines continued. $100 per day became $700 per week. Then came a processing fee of $75. Then a legal review fee of $250, despite no lawyer's name appearing anywhere on the invoice. Then an administrative inspection fee of $90. Patricia inspected the flagpole from her golf cart every morning at 8:15. She never left the road. She would stop, hold up her phone, take 3 photographs, make a mark on her clipboard, and drive on. Each inspection lasted approximately 43 seconds. $90 for 43 seconds was a billing rate of more than $7,000 per hour, meaning Patricia had accidentally valued her own time above that of most neurosurgeons. I documented everything: dates, times, photographs, emails, invoices, board statements, and golf cart visits. I created a spreadsheet. It had 14 tabs. This is how engineers experience emotion. Some people shout. Some people cry. I apply conditional formatting. By the 3rd week, my balance had reached $3,915. Patricia posted about me on the private neighborhood Facebook page. She did not use my name. She wrote, "One resident has chosen personal defiance over shared values. The board will continue defending Briar Glen's visual character against unauthorized political displays." The flag was now political, apparently because it existed near a sidewalk. Her post received 6 likes. 3 came from board members. 1 came from Patricia herself. Harold commented, "It's the American flag, Patty." His comment was deleted in 4 minutes. He was suspended from the group for 30 days. Harold printed the suspension notice, framed it, and hung it above his television. Then anonymous complaints began arriving. My grass was allegedly 1/4 inch too tall. My recycling bin had remained visible until 6:07 p.m. on collection day, 7 minutes beyond the approved retrieval window. A delivery van had parked facing the wrong direction. My porch light was described as excessively white. The maple tree in my backyard was accused of encroaching toward a shared visual corridor, which was an impressive way to describe a tree growing branches. I answered every notice. I kept my tone polite. I cited the rules. I attached evidence. Then, one Thursday at 7:12 in the morning, I watched Patricia step onto my lawn with a measuring wheel. That almost did it. She had parked her golf cart beside the curb, activated the amber beacon, and entered my property without permission. She wore a lavender windbreaker decorated with white hydrangeas, making her look like a sofa from a coastal bed. And breakfast had become sentient and joined code enforcement. I opened the front door. "Patricia!" She jumped. The measuring wheel rolled forward and bumped into my bird bath. "I am conducting an authorized compliance inspection. You are standing on private property. The association has inspection rights. After 48 hours, written notice. This is an exterior inspection. From my flower bed?" She looked down. Her left shoe was planted beside a row of tulips. "I require access to verify the structure's setback. You already photographed it 21 times. Photographs are not measurements. Neither is trespassing." Her face sharpened like a school principal hearing laughter behind a closed door. Section 4, Paragraph 9, permits the board to access lots for enforcement purposes, after notice, during reasonable hours, for maintenance of shared facilities. This is a reasonable hour. It's 7:12. Some of us begin our days promptly. Some of us begin them on our own property. She raised the measuring wheel. "I will complete my inspection." No, it was the first time I had said the word without adding anything. Patricia stared at me. I stared back. Behind her, the flag moved in the morning breeze. "Are you refusing an official board inspection?" she asked. "Yes." Her mouth opened slightly, like a cash register drawer encountering a foreign coin. "Then I will call law enforcement. That would be appropriate," she called from the middle of my lawn. The officer arrived at 7:39. His name was Officer Leonard Shaw, and he emerged from his patrol car with the slow, weary posture of a man who had already handled 2 loose dogs, a stolen wheelbarrow, and someone reporting a suspicious cloud. He was broad through the shoulders, gray at the temples, and wore the expression of a public servant whose optimism had retired before he did. Patricia marched toward him. "Officer, this homeowner is obstructing an authorized HOA inspection." Officer Shaw looked at me. "Morning." "Morning." He looked at Patricia. "Are you the property owner?" "I am president of the Briar Glen Estates Homeowners Association." "That wasn't my question." She tightened her grip on the clipboard. "The association retains inspection authority." "Did he invite you onto the lawn?" "No, but did you provide notice?" "This is visible from the street." Officer Shaw glanced at the flagpole. "Then inspect it from the street. I need measurements. Get permission. He is in active violation." "Of what?" Patricia began reciting covenant sections with the urgency of someone reading evacuation instructions aboard a sinking pontoon boat. Officer Shaw listened for approximately 20 seconds. Then he raised one hand. "Ma'am, HOA rules are civil matters. Trespassing is not." "I am not trespassing. He told you to leave. I have authority. He owns the grass." Patricia's face flushed. "You do not understand the seriousness of this situation." Officer Shaw looked up at the 12-foot pole. Then he looked at her golf cart, its amber beacon still flashing in the dawn. "I understand a flagpole dispute has produced an emergency vehicle. It is not an emergency vehicle." "Then turn off the light." She left. Officer Shaw watched the golf cart retreat down Lantern Ridge Drive. Then he looked at me. "Mr. Mercer, I don't care whether your flagpole is 12 feet or 12 miles. Keep everything documented." "I am." "Good." He sighed. "This is paperwork wearing a sun hat." Then he returned to his patrol car and drove away. That afternoon, I received a new fine. $500 for interference with an authorized inspection. That was when I called Salvatore Moretti. Sal had inspected tower foundations with me on municipal projects for 12 years. He owned Moretti Crane, concrete and questionable sandwiches, although the final part appeared only on the coffee mugs he gave clients at Christmas. Sal was 63, 5'7", and shaped like a fire hydrant that had developed strong opinions about anchor bolts. He had forearms like cured hams and a silver mustache wide enough to require separate zoning approval. When I arrived at his workshop, he was attempting to retrieve a pickle from a gallon jar using a pair of locking pliers. He looked up. "Danny." "Sal, you look tired. My HOA wants me to remove Dad's flagpole." He stopped reaching for the pickle. "What the pole do?" "Created visual disharmony." Sal stared at me. Then he slowly lowered the pliers. "I once poured a concrete pad for a woman who said gravel had an aggressive energy. This is worse." I showed him the notices. He read them while chewing half a meatball sandwich. By page 4, his eyebrows had climbed high enough to qualify as rooftop equipment. "They fined you for denying an inspection?" She entered without notice. "They put that in writing?" "Yes." Sal leaned back and smiled. It was the smile of a mechanic hearing an engine make a noise he already knew how to fix. "Danny, there are two kinds of people in this world. People who make mistakes and people who laminate them." He tapped Patricia's notice. This woman laminated hers. I explained the covenant language. Accessory structures required approval only if they exceeded 15 feet. The HOA had no rule limiting flagpole height below that threshold, but county code allowed residential flagpoles up to 35 feet. Sal listened. Then I told him about a separate parcel. My house sat on lot 114, but the narrow strip of land between my side yard and the drainage easement had once been reserved for utility access. When the development was completed, that strip had been transferred to me by quitclaim deed because it was too small to remain a separate parcel. The HOA map still shaded it as common utility space. The county deed did not. More importantly, a telecommunications easement crossed that strip. The easement had been created in 1998 for a planned emergency radio repeater that was never built. It permitted communications, environmental monitoring, public warning equipment, and associated support structures up to 75 feet, subject to county permitting. The easement could be activated by the property owner in partnership with a licensed public service or research organization. Sal stopped chewing. "What do you do for Calder County every spring?" "I calibrate their flood monitoring stations." "And who runs the weather network at Bellwether Community College?" "Dr. Elaine Park." "And what did Elaine ask you for last year?" "A new station east of town." Sal pointed the sandwich at me like a conductor's baton. "There it is. I don't want to build something just to annoy her." "No, you build something useful." He stood, wiped his hands, and walked to a drafting table. You give the college wind speed, rainfall, temperature, humidity, barometric pressure, lightning detection, particulate levels, and a live camera aimed at the western storm corridor. That requires a tower. Correct. Maximum county height without a special zoning hearing is 60 feet. Sal grinned. His mustache rose like a theater curtain before the final act. Then 60 feet sounds downright neighborly. I called Dr. Elaine Park that afternoon. Elaine directed the Bellwether Community College Atmospheric Observation Program. She was 49, wore rectangular glasses on a chain, and spoke with the efficient enthusiasm of someone who considered thunderstorms personal correspondence. When I explained the easement and location, she became quiet. You have unobstructed exposure to the west? She asked. From 30 feet upward. How far from the nearest mature tree? 108 feet. Power? Underground conduit is possible. Network connection. Fiber at the house. Wireless backup available. Lightning grounding. I design towers, Elaine. I know. I'm enjoying asking questions you already answered. She visited the property the next morning. She walked the easement, checked coordinates, studied the horizon, and looked at the county floodplain map on her tablet. This fills a 6-mile gap in our network, she said. Useful? Very. Public enough for the easement. The college can operate it as Station BGC-7. We provide data to the County Emergency Office and National Cooperative Weather Network. Could it support a public warning siren? Elaine looked at me over her glasses. Do you need a siren? No. Could it? Yes. We did not add a siren. Not then. For the next 3 weeks, I prepared. I did not mention the plan to Patricia. I did not hint at it on Facebook. I did not photograph tower catalogs while standing theatrically in my driveway. I filed the county permit application. I submitted stamped engineering drawings. I paid the $480 structural review fee. I obtained a soil report. I scheduled utility marking. I signed an operating agreement with Bellwether Community College. I added a public data access covenant to the property record. I requested a determination from the county that the structure qualified under the existing telecommunications and environmental monitoring easement. The county zoning director, Martin Hale, issued a written approval. Proposed 60-foot self-supporting lattice tower is permitted by right under Easement Instrument 98-441 and County Code 112-6.4, provided all equipment remains non-commercial and supports environmental monitoring or public warning. I called the State Flag Protocol Office to verify display requirements. I ordered a 6-by-10-foot storm-rated American flag for the 45-foot level, positioned below the meteorological sensors so it would not interfere with wind readings. Every component was legal. Every bolt was specified. Every load case was calculated for 90-mile-per-hour wind, radial ice accumulation, sensor weight, maintenance access, and the possibility that Patricia's disapproval possessed measurable aerodynamic force. Sal reviewed the drawings. This thing could survive a hurricane. Category 2. Could it survive an HOA meeting? Nothing survives an HOA meeting. The permit was issued on May 6 at 3:41 p.m. At 3:44, I printed 6 copies. At 3:47, I placed 1 copy in a waterproof sleeve beside my front door. At 3:51, my coffee became cold. The trucks arrived at 6:58 on Monday morning. The first was Sal's flatbed carrying tower sections. The second carried a compact drilling rig. The third delivered concrete, reinforcing steel, grounding rods, conduit, and a portable toilet, with the unfortunate company slogan, "We're number 1 in number 2. By 7:05, half the neighborhood was standing outside. Harold brought a folding chair. Across the street, Naomi Caldwell appeared in a bathrobe decorated with flamingos and held binoculars she made no attempt to conceal. 2 children rode past on scooters, circled the block, and returned with 3 more children. Sal stepped down from the flatbed wearing an orange safety vest and carrying a breakfast burrito the size of a rolled sleeping bag. "Morning, Danny. Morning. You ready?" "I've been ready since subsection C." The drilling rig began positioning over the marked foundation point. At 7:19, the golf cart appeared. The amber beacon flashed. Patricia drove faster than usual, perhaps 11 miles per hour, which caused her daisy-covered visor to tremble like a decorative plate during a minor earthquake. She stopped so abruptly that Roger Bell, riding in the passenger seat, lurched forward and struck the dashboard with both palms. Patricia climbed out. She wore a blue floral tracksuit that looked like a botanical garden had exploded across a mid-sized sedan. The clipboard was already raised. "What is happening?" Sal looked at me. I looked at Sal. Sal took another bite of burrito. "Foundation work," I said. "For what?" "A weather station." She stared at the flatbed. The first tower section was 20 feet long. "That is not a weather station. It will be, when we put weather equipment on it. You are constructing a commercial communications tower in a residential neighborhood. No commercial equipment. This project has not been approved by the Architectural Committee. It doesn't require HOA approval." Her voice sharpened like a fork dragged across a porcelain sink. "All permanent exterior improvements require approval. Section 11, paragraph 3, exempts utility and easement structures. That refers to association utilities. It says recorded utilities. The board interprets. The county already interpreted it. I handed her the permit. She did not take it. Instead, she looked at Roger. Roger looked at the tower. The tower offered no guidance. Patricia turned toward Sal. "You are instructed to stop work immediately." Sal swallowed. "Who are you?" "I am Patricia Wexler, president of the Briar Glen Estates Homeowners Association." Sal nodded thoughtfully. "I'm Sal Moretti, president of Eating This Burrito, and I'm almost done with my first term. This construction is unauthorized." Sal pointed toward the permit sleeve beside my front door. "County authorization's over there. Stamped drawings are in the truck. Utility marks are on the ground. Concrete inspection is booked for 11. I represent the property authority." "No, ma'am. You represent a club with landscaping expenses." Harold applauded once. Patricia spun toward him. "Mr. Finch, this does not concern you." "It's 60 feet tall," Harold said. "It concerns the horizon." Patricia marched toward the drilling rig. Sal stepped sideways, not blocking her, simply occupying space with the density of a municipal bollard. "You need to remain outside the work zone. I demand to speak to whoever is in charge." Sal pointed at me. "You've been doing that." She turned back to me. "How tall?" 60 feet. For several seconds, no one spoke. Even the drilling rig seemed to idle more quietly. Patricia's face went through 4 distinct expressions: confusion, disbelief, calculation, and the sudden spiritual realization that 12 feet had been the affordable option. 60? She whispered. "Yes." "You cannot erect a 60-foot flagpole. It's a weather monitoring tower." "With a flag?" "Yes. That makes it a flagpole." "No. It makes it a weather tower with a flag. The board ordered you to remove the flagpole. I am removing it." I pointed toward the original 12-foot pole. Sal's crew had already unbolted it from the base. Patricia looked from the old pole to the tower sections. Her lower jaw moved slightly, like a garage door opener struggling with a frozen mechanism. "This is malicious. It measures rainfall. You are doing this to intimidate the board." "The anemometer has no opinion about you. This will destroy property values." Elaine Park arrived at that moment in a college utility van, bearing the words Atmospheric Observation Program. She stepped out, carrying a hard case of sensors. Patricia strode toward her. "Who are you?" "Dr. Elaine Park, Bellwether Community College. Are you responsible for this?" "I'm responsible for the instruments. This structure violates our community standards." Elaine looked at the tower sections. Then she looked at Patricia. "What standard does the atmosphere use?" Patricia's mouth tightened. "Visual harmony." Elaine glanced at the sky. "Clouds are going to be a problem." The drilling began at 7:42. Patricia called the police at 7:44. Officer Leonard Shaw arrived at 8:03. He parked, stepped out, saw Patricia, saw me, saw the tower sections, and closed his eyes for 1 full second. It was the expression of a man whose day had just developed a sequel. Patricia reached him before he cleared the front of his patrol car. "Officer, they are constructing an illegal tower after being formally ordered to remove the existing structure." Officer Shaw looked at me. "Permit?" I pointed. He examined the county approval, the stamped drawings, and the easement determination. He called dispatch, who connected him with the county zoning office. He listened for 2 minutes. Then he handed the papers back. "It's permitted." Patricia stepped closer. It violates HOA restrictions. That's civil. It is dangerous. It passed structural review. It blocks my view. Officer Shaw looked toward Patricia's house, which was 3 streets away. Of what? The neighborhood skyline. There wasn't a skyline. There will be now, Harold called. Patricia jabbed her finger toward the drilling rig. I am ordering this stopped. Officer Shaw's shoulders sagged like a tent after a wet weekend. You can't order construction stopped on someone else's property when the county approved it. I am HOA president. Yes, ma'am, you've mentioned that. The board has enforcement authority, not over county easements. This is retaliation. Officer Shaw glanced at the original flagpole lying beside the porch. So the small one is coming down? Yes, I said. He looked at the 60-foot sections. And that's replacing it? Yes. He returned the permit to me. Then he looked at Patricia. You won. He removed the flagpole. He walked back to his patrol car. Before opening the door, he added, You just forgot to specify what happened next. The foundation took 2 days. It was 8 feet deep, 6 feet wide, reinforced with a welded steel cage, and tied into 3 copper grounding rods. Patricia photographed every stage from the street. She issued a stop work directive and taped it to Sal's portable toilet. The directive cited an architectural rule that applied to detached garages. Sal framed it with blue painter's tape and wrote, Employee of the Month above it. The tower went up on Thursday. A crane lifted the first section at 8:06. By 9:20, the structure reached 40 feet. By 10:13, it reached 60. The lattice tower was galvanized steel, triangular in cross-section, and only 24 inches wide at the top. It looked clean, professional, and vaguely scientific, like a very tall person had assembled a piece of laboratory equipment on my lawn. Elaine's team mounted a sonic anemometer, rain gauge, temperature and humidity shield, barometer, lightning detector, solar radiation sensor, particulate monitor, and 2 small directional antennas. At 45 feet, Sal installed the flag bracket. The 6 by 10 foot flag rose at 11:32. The entire street watched. Harold removed his cap. Naomi Caldwell put down her binoculars. Even Roger Bell, who had been standing beside Patricia's golf cart, placed one hand over his heart. The flag opened in the western breeze. It was not cartoonishly enormous. It did not cover the street or slap low-flying aircraft, but compared with the original flag, it was magnificent. The old 12-foot pole had displayed Dad's flag beside my porch. The new tower lifted it above the rooftops, below the weather instruments, where it moved against the blue sky with the calm certainty of something that had survived both storms and committees. I felt my throat tighten. Sal stood beside me. He'd like it, he said. Yeah. You gonna cry? No. Good. Concrete guys charge extra for emotion. Across the street, Patricia stood completely still. Her floral visor had been replaced with a white sun hat, and her face beneath it looked like someone had informed her that the moon required architectural approval, but had already been installed. At 11:40, she raised her phone and began live streaming to the neighborhood Facebook group. This is President Patricia Wexler, reporting an unprecedented attack on the character of Briar Glen Estates. Harold checked his phone. She turned comments off. Strategic, Patricia continued. The homeowner at 1847 Lantern Ridge has erected what appears to be an industrial surveillance tower in direct defiance of the board's lawful authority. Elaine looked up from the sensor console. Surveillance tower? The camera points west, I said. What's west? Corn. Elaine nodded. Suspicious corn. Patricia paced beside her golf cart, speaking into the phone with the grave intensity of a correspondent reporting from the deck of a sinking cruise ship. She claimed the station could record private conversations. It could not. She claimed it emitted radiation. It received weather data over a low-power wireless connection. She claimed the tower would attract tornadoes. Even Roger looked at her then. Patricia, he murmured. She waved him away. Her live stream lasted 18 minutes and contained 7 provably false statements, 3 potential defamation claims, and 1 assertion that industrial wind sensors alter local air currents. Elaine saved a copy. So did Harold. So did 32 other residents. That evening, the station went live. Station BGC-7 began reporting temperature, humidity, wind speed, wind direction, rainfall, pressure, lightning distance, solar radiation, and air quality every 60 seconds. The college placed a public dashboard online. Children began checking it before school. Gardeners used the rainfall totals. Cyclists used the wind readings. Harold used the camera to determine whether he needed a jacket, despite standing close enough to look outside. For 4 days, Patricia did nothing. The silence was unsettling. Then she scheduled an emergency board meeting. The meeting notice accused me of operating unauthorized commercial infrastructure, violating privacy rights, creating a nuisance, obstructing scenic enjoyment, and weaponizing meteorology. That final phrase attracted 63 residents to the clubhouse. The room was so crowded that Sal stood near the vending machines holding 2 bags of crisps and accepting them as payment for seat reservations he did not own. Patricia entered at 6:31 wearing a cream pantsuit with padded shoulders that made her look like a decorative refrigerator prepared to run for Parliament. She carried the clipboard. Roger Bell and Linda Pruitt followed. Roger looked ill. Linda had stopped wearing turquoise. Patricia called the meeting to order. "This tower was installed through deceptive means," she announced. I raised my hand. She ignored it. The homeowner claimed environmental purposes, while clearly intending to humiliate this board. Elaine raised her hand. Patricia ignored her too. "The structure contains cameras, antennas, and potentially hazardous electrical equipment. It has a lightning rod," Elaine said. Patricia struck the gavel. "Comments will be taken after the board presentation." The gavel still sounded like a walnut falling onto carpet. For 26 minutes, Patricia presented photographs of the tower. Most had been taken from dramatic low angles. One included Roger's thumb. Another showed only a cloud. Then she displayed a map showing a hypothetical fall radius extending across 4 homes. I studied the diagram. "You used the full height as the radius," I said. She glared at me. "That is standard." "No, it isn't. The tower is self-supporting and engineered to buckle inward under overload. Also, your scale is wrong. The scale was generated digitally. You stretched the image in PowerPoint." Someone laughed. Patricia clicked to the next slide. The map disappeared sideways, revealing a photograph of her dog sitting on a sofa. She clicked again. The dog vanished. The room became very quiet, in the special way rooms do when everyone is attempting not to laugh at once. Patricia recovered. "The board proposes an emergency assessment of $800 per household to fund legal action and immediate removal." The room exploded. Residents shouted questions. $800 multiplied by 146 homes equaled $116,800. Roger leaned toward Patricia. "We did not approve that figure." She covered the microphone with one hand. "You approved legal action, not an assessment." Linda shook her head. "I didn't vote for this." Patricia turned off the microphone. Unfortunately, she did not stop speaking loudly enough for the room to hear. "We discussed broad enforcement authority." Roger sat back. "No, you discussed it. We sat there." The room erupted again. Patricia struck the gavel repeatedly, producing a series of tiny wooden taps, like a squirrel attempting home repairs. "Order! The President retains emergency authority under Section 3, Paragraph 8. I opened the covenants. That section covers temporary repairs after natural disasters. This is an emergency." Elaine looked toward the windows. "Pressure is stable." Patricia pointed at me. "You deliberately exploited an obsolete easement. It's recorded. You manipulated the county. I submitted an application. You recruited a public institution to bypass community oversight. The college needed a station. You installed a flag larger than the one you were ordered to remove." "Yes." The room became quiet. Patricia seemed surprised by the answer. I continued. "You ordered me to remove the 12-foot pole. I removed it. Your notice did not prohibit a weather monitoring tower. The covenants exempt easement structures. The county approved 60 feet. The college operates the equipment. The station provides public data. Every part is permitted, inspected, insured, and recorded." Patricia's face hardened. "You admit this was retaliation?" "No. You admit the flag is intended as a message. It's intended as a flag, a 6 by 10-foot flag. The tower requires proper proportions." Sal spoke from the back. "Tiny flag would look silly." Several people nodded. Patricia's voice rose. "You cannot simply outbuild the authority of this board." I looked at her. "I didn't. I placed the violation notice on the table. You did." The board meeting ended without a vote. Roger resigned the next morning. Linda resigned 4 hours later. Patricia declared their resignations invalid. They responded by mailing copies to every homeowner. Then the storm came. It began 11 days after the tower went live. At 2:14 on a Wednesday afternoon, BGC-7 detected a pressure drop of 7.8 millibars in 20 minutes. At 2:19, the wind shifted southwest. At 2:23, the lightning detector logged strikes 12 miles west. Elaine called me. "We've got a severe cell developing fast." I opened the dashboard. The western camera showed a dark shelf cloud rolling over the cornfields. The county weather network had no other station directly beneath the cell. BGC-7 became the primary ground observation point for that section of bellwether. At 2:31, wind gusts reached 42 miles per hour. At 2:34, they reached 56. At 2:36, the county emergency office issued a severe thunderstorm warning. Then the power failed across Briar Glen. My station switched to battery backup. The data continued. Rain hit the neighborhood sideways, hard enough to make the windows sound like someone throwing dry rice at the house. Branches whipped across the road. Patio furniture migrated toward property lines. Harold's recycling bin traveled 90 feet and lodged beneath Patricia's golf cart, which had been left outside the clubhouse. At 2:41, the station measured a 68-mile-per-hour gust. A transformer sparked near the southern entrance. A tree fell across Marigold Court. The college relayed live wind and rainfall information to county emergency management. The western camera confirmed the storm's strongest rotation had passed north of Briar Glen, allowing responders to approach from Lantern Ridge instead of waiting for radar estimates. At 2:48, the county asked whether BGC-7 could support an emergency public address unit. The easement permitted it. The tower had conduit. Sal had a weatherproof speaker array in his warehouse because Sal owned equipment the way dragons owned gold. By 5:30, the storm had passed. No one in Briar Glen was seriously hurt. 7 roofs lost shingles. 2 trees fell. The clubhouse flooded because its gutters had not been cleaned, despite Patricia having fined 3 residents for gutter discoloration. The tower stood perfectly straight. The flag had been lowered automatically when sustained winds exceeded 45 miles per hour, thanks to a motorized system Elaine had recommended. At 6:12, Patricia posted on Facebook, "Today's storm proves the industrial tower is a danger. Its presence may have intensified wind conditions and attracted electrical activity to our community." That post was the mistake that ended her presidency. Elaine responded publicly with wind graphs, lightning maps, radar captures, and a statement from Calder County Emergency Management, thanking Station BGC-7 for providing critical real-time observations during the severe weather event. The county shared the post. The college shared the post. A local television meteorologist shared the post with the caption, "Weather stations measure storms. They do not summon them." Within 24 hours, Patricia's original statement had been viewed 84,000 times. Briar Glen became briefly famous as the neighborhood whose HOA president believed an anemometer controlled the sky. But Patricia was not finished. People like Patricia do not stop digging when they reach bedrock. They request a larger shovel and establish a subcommittee. The following Saturday, she announced an official tower safety inspection. No county inspector was present. No engineer was present. Patricia arrived at 9 a.m. with 2 board supporters, a folding table, a stepladder, 20 feet of yellow caution tape, and a man named Trevor Klein, who operated a gutter cleaning business. Trevor wore a high-visibility vest over cargo shorts and looked like a crossing guard who had taken a wrong turn into a hostage negotiation. Patricia claimed Trevor was an independent safety consultant. His business card read, "Gutters, guards, and more." No one knew what more included. Apparently, tower engineering. I met them at the edge of my property. "You do not have permission to enter," I said. Patricia held up a letter. Under Section 4, Paragraph 9, the association may inspect exterior improvements affecting common safety. You used that section last time, and the police misunderstood it. Officer Shaw explained it. He offered an opinion. He offered trespass law. Trevor adjusted his vest. Ma'am, you said we were checking drainage. We are documenting the structure. I don't do structures. You have a ladder. Trevor looked at his 6-foot ladder. Then he looked at the 60-foot tower. That's not how ladders work. Harold and Naomi stood across the street. 3 other residents watched from their driveways. Sal was beside my garage, checking the emergency speaker brackets. Elaine had come to install a replacement humidity sensor. Everyone heard me warn Patricia. You may inspect from the public road. You may not enter the marked equipment area or touch any controls. She lifted her chin with the posture of a swan preparing to dispute a parking citation. The board will not be intimidated by homemade boundaries. They're utility markings. You place them. The college placed them. She stepped beneath the caution chain surrounding the equipment cabinet. Officer Shaw's patrol car turned onto Lantern Ridge at that exact moment. Harold had called the non-emergency number 15 minutes earlier. Officer Shaw parked. He did not immediately get out. He sat behind the wheel looking through the windshield at Patricia, the folding table, the ladder, Trevor, the tower, Sal, Elaine, and the growing audience. Then he lowered his forehead onto the steering wheel. After several seconds, he emerged. Mrs. Wexler. Officer. Good. I require your assistance. I was afraid of that. This homeowner is obstructing a lawful safety inspection. Officer Shaw looked at me. Did you give permission? No. He looked at Patricia. Then stay off the property. I am already conducting the inspection. You are standing next to an electrical cabinet. It is association business. It is college equipment. Patricia reached toward the cabinet latch. Elaine stepped forward. Do not open that. Patricia froze. Why? Because it contains the station controller, battery system, and automatic maintenance controls. Then it requires inspection. Not by you. Patricia turned to her live stream audience. You see, they are concealing hazardous equipment. She pulled the latch. The cabinet did not open. It was locked. Her face brightened as though the lock itself proved criminal intent. I demand the key. No, I said. Officer, compel him to provide access. No, Officer Shaw said. Patricia's eyes narrowed. Then she noticed the external test panel beside the cabinet. It contained 3 labeled controls beneath protective covers. Sensor test. Backup power test. Maintenance water flush. The final control activated a brief spray cycle for the rain gauge debris screen and dust sensors. It used 2 low-pressure nozzles mounted 8 feet above the cabinet. Patricia pointed at it. What is that? A maintenance system, Elaine said. What does it do? Do not touch it. That should have ended the scene. A reasonable person would have stopped. An unreasonable person might have argued. Patricia did something only Patricia could do. She looked directly into her phone camera and said, As president, I am exercising emergency authority to test this unauthorized equipment. Then she lifted the protective cover and pressed maintenance water flush. The system activated immediately. 2 nozzles released intersecting fans of water. Patricia received both. The spray struck her hat first, folding the brim downward over her eyes like a collapsing patio umbrella. She shrieked and stumbled backward. Her heel caught on the leg of the folding table she had brought. The table tipped. Her clipboard flew upward. Papers spread across the lawn like startled pigeons. Patricia grabbed the tablecloth, which pulled a plastic storage box onto the ground. The box opened. Inside were 37 printed copies of proposed fines against residents who had attended the emergency board meeting. One sheet was labeled Priority Enforcement Targets. Another was titled Potential Liens. The water continued for exactly 12 seconds. Patricia, blinded by her hat and tangled in the tablecloth, climbed onto the folding table in an effort to escape the spray. The table was not rated for presidential evacuation. It folded inward. She descended approximately 18 inches into the wet grass. With a sound that was half gasp, half noise, a goose would decline to claim. No one touched her. No one pushed her. No one had activated the system, except Patricia herself. Her phone remained live streaming from the ground. The camera pointed upward and captured everything. The warnings, the trespass, the demand for access, the button press, the spray, the falling documents, and Officer Shaw saying, in the flattest voice I had ever heard, "She has inspected the water." Trevor Klein quietly picked up his ladder. "I was told this was gutters," he said. Then he walked to his van and left. Patricia stood. Water dripped from her floral blouse. Her hat hung sideways. A strand of caution tape had attached itself to her shoe and trailed behind her like the world's least impressive parade banner. She saw the enforcement documents scattered across the lawn. Residents were already photographing them. "Those are confidential board materials," she shouted. Harold held up his phone. "They're outdoor materials now." Patricia lunged toward the nearest sheet. Officer Shaw stepped between her and the papers. "Stop! They were stolen. They fell out of your box. This is association property." "Then collect it after you leave his property. I am not leaving until this inspection is complete." Officer Shaw looked at the soaked table, the open cabinet cover, the scattered violation files, and the maintenance water dripping from Patricia's sleeves. "It's complete," she pointed at me. "He set a trap. I warned you not to touch it." Elaine raised one hand. "So did I." Officer Shaw nodded toward Patricia's phone. "So did your own video." Patricia looked down. The live stream showed 418 viewers. Comments moved across the screen faster than she could read them. She ended the broadcast. Too late. By noon, 6 residents had saved it. By 2 o'clock, every homeowner had received photographs of the priority enforcement targets list. My name was first. Harold was second. Naomi was third. Roger Bell, despite resigning, was fourth. The list included notes beside each name. Hostile, likely agitator, questions authority, influences others. Beside Naomi's name, Patricia had written, "Owns binoculars." The recall petition began that evening. It required signatures from 25% of homeowners. By Sunday morning, it had 78%. The special meeting was held 12 days later in the clubhouse. Patricia attempted to cancel it. The management company refused. She attempted to move it to 2 o'clock on a weekday. The bylaws required evening availability. She attempted to disqualify proxies. The association attorney, who had finally become involved after being falsely listed on 3 invoices, informed her that interfering with the recall vote could expose her personally to legal action. The meeting began at 7 p.m. 127 households participated. Patricia was removed as president by a vote of 119 to 6, with 2 abstentions. One of the 6 votes supporting her came from Patricia. Another came from a proxy signed by her husband, who was sitting beside her and appeared surprised when his name was announced. The new board rescinded every flagpole fine. It refunded $1,860 in administrative charges collected from other residents under Patricia's Enhanced Enforcement Initiative. It hired an independent auditor. The audit found that Patricia had approved $23,700 in legal review fees without invoices, paid a landscaping company owned by her cousin above market rates, and purchased the golf cart's amber beacon using the emergency preparedness budget. The insurance carrier refused to cover her individual actions because she had repeatedly ignored written legal advice. The association did not collapse, but it came close enough to see the paperwork at the bottom. Residents voted to restructure the board, limit enforcement authority, require open meetings for fines above $250, and prohibit directors from entering private property without written notice and owner consent, except during genuine emergencies. The golf cart was sold. Harold bought the amber beacon at the community auction for $14. He mounted it on his lawnmower. The college added the emergency public address system to BGC-7 later that summer. Not because of Patricia, because the storm had exposed a warning gap. The tower now sounded a 30-second test at noon on the first Wednesday of each month. Patricia complained about the noise. The county sent her the public safety ordinance. She did not respond. By September, she listed her house. It sold for $41,000 below her asking price, after 3 buyers asked why the HOA president had been removed. She moved to a downtown condominium where the lawns were maintained by a management company and no resident owned enough outdoor space to install anything taller than a basil plant. Briar Glen changed. Harold's suspension from the Facebook group was reversed, although he refused to rejoin because the framed notice looked better with a backstory. Naomi continued using her binoculars without declaring them to the architectural committee. Kids checked the weather dashboard before football practice. Gardeners compared rainfall totals. During the first winter storm, the station detected freezing conditions 17 minutes before the county's western sensor, and the city salted Lantern Ridge before anyone slid into a decorative boulder. Roger Bell became treasurer again after insisting the monthly reports be posted publicly. Linda Pruitt started a neighborhood book exchange and used the old violation notice box as the first shelf. The new HOA president was a quiet electrician named Marcus Green, who attended his first meeting in work boots and a sweatshirt. His inaugural speech lasted 11 seconds. Pay your dues, don't block the fire hydrants, and try to keep things reasonable. Yeah? The motion passed unanimously. My original 12-foot flagpole now stands in the backyard, beside Dad's maple tree. I mounted a smaller flag on it, the same 3-by-5-foot flag he flew from his porch. The larger storm-rated flag remains on the tower. On clear mornings, I sit outside with a mug of coffee and watch it move above the rooftops, while the station records wind speed, sunlight, air pressure, and all the other things Patricia believed were less harmonious than her clipboard. My coffee still goes cold. Some systems cannot be improved. Last month, the county installed a small bronze plaque at the base of the tower. It reads, BGC-7 Environmental Monitoring and Public Warning Station, in service to the residents of Bellwether Elevation. 1,184 feet tower height. 60 feet. Harold suggested adding one more line. I asked what it should say. He looked up at the flag, then down the street where Patricia's golf cart once flashed its tiny amber light. Built to full compliance, he said. So that's what we added. Now I want to hear from you. What is the most ridiculous rule an HOA or difficult neighbor has ever tried to enforce where you live? Tell us in the comments. And if you enjoyed watching 12 feet of authority turn into 60 feet of weather data, like the video and subscribe to Sovereign Judgment. Patricia demanded that I remove my flagpole. I did. The weather has been excellent ever since.